involved in gangs because they don't feel like maybe they fit in anywhere, or they're not accepted, and that's an area where, you know, that's a group that they feel accepted and they feel loved, and that's why, you know, it's important to get them, like, you know, big brothers, big sisters, get them connected with, you know, positive, role models, getting them involved in more healthy activities where they can get connected with more positive things will prevent that, you know, in the future. And also, I think to help them to move on from that experience as well. You know, it doesn't have to define his life forever. He can make different choices and things can turn out, and if he learns from that experience, that's what's important. If he learns from the experience and doesn't continue to make the same mistakes, we learn from our mistakes, hopefully. And if we learn from them, we can move on from that and make better choices.
I guess if, you know, if maybe we have a student that we're working with that, you know, is going down a path that's not good, and, you know, they usually are aware enough to know, like, yeah, those choices I'm making aren't good, then, you know, what our role kind of is to, you know, let's figure out, you know, can we write down some goals that, you know, maybe you want to look towards, and maybe that's, you know, so say for example they were doing drugs or something like that, then maybe a goal for that student, you know, we're not probably going to say you just need to stop tomorrow, you know, and but maybe helping them see, you know, what maybe are some of the negative consequences of the behaviors you're doing, and then what can we try to work towards, you know, slowing down with that, and then eventually maybe stopping too. So just kind of working with each one individually on, you know, coming up with some goals and helping them understand too what their decisions might lead to maybe a situation like that. So.
On the back of the book it says Steve Harmon is black. And all throughout the book, the author specifically notes the color of his skin. The book often refers to black males, and the research we have conducted as a group tends to show a black population. Can you explain why this might be based on your experience in your job?
As in, if there would be that same, like, racial background in the clients that we serve? You probably answer a little bit better to that one.
Yeah, I can't say that there's in my job, there's not a particular, you know, that I work with one race more than another. I mean, I think anyone can be influenced, and again, it goes back to what's in your environment, who are you hanging out with, you know, different things like that. So to me, it doesn't matter the race. Anybody could, you know, make those choices or get involved in the wrong things if they don't have those positive connections with adults or other students. So
yeah, definitely see kids of every, you know, racial background, income background. It's not just, you know,
it doesn't matter what house you live in, it doesn't matter what your parents do, it doesn't matter the color of your skin, none of that matters. We see, students from all different backgrounds that are influenced in different ways.
In our book, our main character, Steve, goes to court for a murder felony. Have you ever seen a teen in this situation? What's it like? And if not, what's your advice on it?
I have met with students who were going to make those choices, students who wanted to kill someone, and the fact that they talked to me about that first, and I'm able to get them the proper intervention. Again, talking to them of what's that, you know, you're really angry with this person, but, you know, let's look at the big picture, help them looking from a different perspective, because sometimes they're so angry that that's all they can think about is how they want to resolve that situation. And so I did have a situation not too long ago, similar, that could have led to that, and helping that student see how is that going to impact your life forever if you make that choice. and was able to get them the proper help they needed and other intervention, because when I meet with students, they know that what we talk about is confidential, but if it has to do with taking their life or taking someone else's life, or if there's abuse or neglect going on, there are certain things that I cannot keep confidential to, get extra help for them that they need. In the situation I was in, I was able to get them extra help, and because they were dealing with a lot of their drugs and, other things going on, and so they were agreeable to get that extra help, so they didn't follow through on their intentions. And so I was very proud of that student. Number one, for opening up about having those strong feelings, and number two, being willing to accept extra help. And they were at that point where they're like, okay, because they had been struggling with anxiety and depression and, self-medicating, and, there were lots of horrific things, excuse me, going on in their life, including some gang stuff, and so they did accept the extra help for that.
And there are, students that we see too that have maybe committed lesser crimes than murder too, that may be on probation, so they have to complete certain things in order to, get off of probation. A lot of times that's getting involved with services and things that maybe Chestnut has to provide, or other, agencies. So I think a lot of times the kids just kind of just want to be done with it and move on. So want to do this, take the steps that they need to get better and get the help that they need, and then hopefully be able to move on and not do those things again. Do some, come right back, sure. But I think most of them are, once that happens, they're, at least starting to think about their actions a little bit more, and this isn't fun to have to, see a probation officer, every week or every month, or you have to go through all these different classes and things. So, maybe next time when I'm thinking of, doing something that's illegal, then I'll think twice about it, so.
And when they get the help, they can think from a different perspective. Nobody intends or thinks that their life is gonna go in that direction. It's gradual steps, maybe they're starting to smoke marijuana and, get involved in other things, and then their perceptions are off, and then they're, being influenced, and, they never knew that their life would take that direction. And when they get that help, then they're able, and, stop using, then they can look at things from a different perspective, and that's awesome to see. Where like we just had a student say, well, I never would have done that crime had I not been drinking so much. I never would have done that, and I wouldn't be in the trouble I'm in, and I don't like this, and I don't want it to happen again. As a result of the consequence, they're able to change their life around, and see that they don't want to make that mistake again, and that's great to see that. So.
In our book, we are reading, there are people in and out of prison, never really learning their lesson. Has there ever been a time in your job when you tried to do your best, but it just didn't work?
Well, when I meet with students, it has to be voluntary. So number one, they have to want to accept the help. I cannot force my services on a student, nor would I ever. So whenever I meet with a student who might be referred to me for a variety of different reasons, one thing I let them know is, you don't have to meet with me. This is what I'm about. I'm here for you. I'm here to see what else is going on. If there's any way I can help, or maybe there's another resource out there that could help you. So first of all, they have to agree, and most of them do. And they might change things around for a while, but then they might get back into old behaviors. And so then sometimes they accept more help again, but sometimes they might choose to go in a different direction. And if they choose to go in that different direction, you can try to get other, help in there. But if someone truly does not want to accept that help, there's not a whole lot you can do if they just, they're like, no, I wanna go in this direction, I don't need your help, I don't want anybody else's help, that's, you know, and when you see them kind of going downhill, it's really sad, but, you can't force your help on someone who doesn't want it.
I know there's, some high school students that Valerie works with now that she met when they were in junior high. So, they're definitely ones that, continue to have struggles, but do continue to try to want the help as well. So, they realize that, the decisions aren't maybe working out for them and not putting them in good positions, whether it be, they're struggling in school now because of maybe some of these things going on, or they've been arrested or things like that. So still, they might still be making some poor decisions, but still ultimately know, I need help too. So that's good to see. We'd rather just not see them anymore, I guess, and hope that they're doing better and not have to, help them with those issues. But ultimately, if they're gonna, continue to have some struggles or make some poor decisions, we want to make sure we're still there to help them along the way too.
I'm always amazed at, students. I think it takes courage. It takes great courage and strength and maturity to ask for help. We're all going to need help in different ways in our lives. And if you have the maturity and the courage to say, hey, I need some help with, this situation. I don't know what to do, or I'm starting to make, not good choices, and I know that, then I see that as a strength. I'm not going to judge. I'm going to meet them where they're at and encourage them that they had enough courage to and maturity to say, hey, I need help with something. That's how I look at it.
What are the ages that you work with, like the youngest to the oldest?
Junior high through high school throughout the county.
So yeah, Bloomington Normal and then surrounding communities like where you guys are.
What influence do the people that you work with have on you?
Wow, that's a good question. I really like that. Being able to see the changes in a student is just, I say sometimes to students, you're why I do what I do. I just told a student that the other day. To have a student come in and you can see, maybe they're failing all their classes, they're getting into legal trouble, they're willing, again, to have the courage and the strength to accept help, and then, they do what they need to do, and they're willing to do that, and then you see them, they're getting good grades, they're not in legal trouble anymore. You can see in their appearance that they look healthier, they're, being productive, they're getting involved in things, and then sometimes I'll say, do you want to talk to other students, about your experiences, and they see life in a totally different way than when I first met with them. It might be, yeah, I want to keep using, and, maybe just cut back a little bit to, they get the help in their turnaround, I don't want to use anymore, maybe they're being properly medicated, maybe they had depression and anxiety and they were self-medicating, and it started very innocently, a lot of times it does, and then they're on the proper medication and getting counseling, getting the proper help they need, and then they want to help other students, and you can just see in their appearance, and they're feeling good about life now, and they're becoming successful, and they're thinking about their future, where before they didn't even think about their future. It was just the next high, or whatever, and then they're sitting before you saying, yes, I want to talk to other students about my experience, I want to be able to help them, and prevent them from going down the road that I did, and it's just like beautiful, I can't tell you, that's what keeps me doing what I do, seeing that, and I look at it as not only their life has changed, but the future generation has changed, their influence on other people has changed, their influence on their future family has changed, because sometimes it can be a cycle, and so if that one person is helped, think about all those influences that are gonna be more positive than negative. Anything to add?
That was a good answer. I think it feels good too to know that you're someone that they felt comfortable letting know, here's what I got going on, struggling with this is going on, I'm upset about this, and maybe they would never tell a parent those things or a teacher those things, but they feel comfortable with us, saying those things. I think just knowing that had I not been here, who would have helped them? Would anybody have helped them? Would, they have just kept, going down the wrong path, and, where would they be? But just knowing that, hey, we can meet with them and chat with them, and, might not always have to be over the things they're struggling with either, just being able to talk about, hey, how was your weekend? Did you do anything fun? Tell me a little bit about, some of the things you're involved in right now. How's that going? I know you tried out for such and such sport, how's that going? So just being someone that they know they can talk to about those things too, good things that maybe their parents wouldn't care to hear those things, or, a teacher would never stop them in the hall and say, hey, how's speech team going? So just kind of being that person, knowing that, without you, would they have, started making those positive changes like Valerie was talking about, or, would they have just continued to struggle? So just knowing that, and that confidentiality piece is a big thing when students know that you're not going to go and tell, all their classmates, what's going on with them. I think they feel more comfortable to open up. I think that's probably always a concern if you, talk to a friend or anybody that, are they going to tell somebody else about that? But what's nice is they know that they can come to us and tell us, what's going on, and we're not going to judge them, and we're going to keep that information confidential unless it's one of those situations that Valerie was alluding to before. I think that just having that helps.
And maybe it is a situation where, me and my, because this is a time in life where, you want your independence and you still need the rules and stuff like that. And so maybe it's a situation where, there is a conflict with the parent. And so then one of the things I might teach them is positive communication. Well, how can you, let's look at that situation. How can you have positive communication with that parent? These are some of the steps to positive communication, so that, sometimes cycles keep happening. How can you stop that cycle? What can you do, to change some of the communication so it becomes more positive? And, I had a situation like that, and, the student decided to write down how they felt, but it's like, you can't accuse, you can't, certain things with positive communication, don't be accusatory, that, learning the different steps to that. And it turned out really well. They wrote a letter that said how they felt without accusing, and then things really changed in their relationship and their communication, because they thought their parent felt a certain way about them, and they talked about that with their parent wasn't true, and it just opened up how they felt, and improved their relationship with the parent. So even things like communication skills are things that can help reduce stress and not have things, get worse in those directions.
What kind of a degree do you need to do with your job?
My job, I need a master's and a clinical license. So I have a master's degree, and I also have, I'm a licensed clinical social worker, so I have a clinical license as well. On top of that, I happen to have a type 73 because I'm a school social worker. So I have a type 73 working in the schools. You don't need the type 73, I have that. Because I always loved education, working in the schools and helping, in ways that could prevent a student from getting the most out of their education.
Most positions similar to ours would, require a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, depending upon the level of care and work. I have a bachelor's degree in sociology, and that had an emphasis in criminology, so I took a lot of courses too, related to, crime and drugs and juvenile delinquency and things like that. And then I'm also going to be working here at some point soon to become a certified alcohol and drug abuse counselor too. So have that piece that will help as well.
Is there many people that do your job?
Good question. There used to be, like 7 years ago, there was over 20 people doing school-based services at Chestnut. Some of them were, they were in the schools more, so they might have been in a school like as many as 3 days a week, or some schools contracted, they were in the school 5 days a week, so pretty much full-time. In other schools, they might have been 3 days a week, so the schools contracted with Chestnut and had a lot more services. But as the way things are going, there were budget cuts, the drug-free school, grants aren't there, just all kinds of funding cuts. So it went from 20 people to 3 people. So that means a lot less service to the schools. And then it went from 3 people to I was the only one that covered the whole entire county doing what I do. And so I advocated that I need some help. So finally they listened, in the grant they wrote in to have another position. And the hope is that we can't do the service that we did when there was 20-some people, but we can maybe be in some of the schools that use our services a little bit more. It's great, we need it.
Yeah, in general, I think some of the work, in this field, we could have 50 people, doing the work, but, money is always going to be a big issue in nonprofit work. So, talk about grants, having to fund things, the money just doesn't come out of thin air, unfortunately. So, it has to come from government sources, and, you'll always hear that social workers are doing the work of, many people, and we could do a lot better job if we could have more staff, but a lot of times the money is just not there, but we always know that the need is there. So we try to do our best. Valerie trying to work in 30 different schools. Now we're able to split those in half, so that will help us to be in more schools on a more regular basis and helping more kids by having 2 of us instead of just 1.
So yeah, the constant, funding cuts and schools struggling, and having to make cuts in different, they don't want that, the schools don't want that, but unfortunately that's, I don't have anything else to say.
Steve, in the main character in our book, he's only 16 years old, and he's, like we said, he's on trial for murder, but he could also receive the death penalty or possibly life in prison. What's your view on the death penalty for teenagers specifically?
That's a big topic.
No.
I'm always under the kind of the thought that I don't think the death penalty deters crime. The people that are going to, maybe commit those crimes that would put them, on death row, are they, contemplating, if I, kill this person, will I get the death penalty? That most people that are going to commit those crimes are going to commit those crimes regardless. So I don't think having punishment of death, necessarily deters anyone from committing a crime like that. And I just, it's not probably the most appropriate way to handle, those situations. But I'm more on the front end of it, that I just don't think it helps anything, to deter people from committing those crimes.
And I think the question is, he's a teen, and should teens have the same consequences as an adult? Well, we know the brain is not even fully developed till the mid-20s, and at this time of life is when your brain is really pruning and really changing, and so that's why there's lots of risk-taking and, at this age, and, maybe decisions that, it's when you're learning a lot, you're going to be making a lot of mistakes, and so
so young that, you know, could probably get worked through, you know, with some, you know, services granted. A punishment would have to happen of some kind, but, yeah, rehabilitation of some kind so that, you know, that they learn, hopefully learn from it.
And I think we need more of that in our jails and prisons. We need more rehabilitative kind of services that I don't know how much are really there.
Help 'em.
Another area of probably lack of funding.
Help them when they do get out too, because pretty much everybody's gonna get out at some point. So we wanna make sure that, you know, when they do get out, that they have some resources and things that they've been able to obtain, you know, while they were there that will help them hopefully not go back. I don't know if the term recidivism is in that book at all, but, you know, the act of going to jail and then coming out of jail and then going right back. We see that a lot, so there are definitely more things that can be done, you know, to help them when they do get out.
Do you ever go into jails to help kids?
No, that's not part of my position. My position is just school-based, so I meet with students in the schools only. I don't do home visits or, you know, any of that. I link students up with other services that could help. So if it's more of, you know, maybe some mental health stuff going on, depression, anxiety, different things like that, and say a student, you know, is starting to use, to self-medicate, I might work with a student at school on those issues, but I'll also link them up with